Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Soul. And today I'm going to be talking about a little game called Final Fantasy X. And there's like a lot of different ways I might title this video. I've had like 4 different titles for this video. One might be the hardest video game I've ever played, which is kind of like it's kind of clickbaity because it's not technically true. One might be the video game, the one thing that's ever made me cry. One might be how this game made me whatever. The big thing is there's a story I have with Final Fantasy X that is kind of like the lifeblood of why I love that game so much. And obviously if I ever, review this product, if I ever review this game, I have to tell this story. But I don't want to just completely tell the story within the review. So maybe this video will be like a good accompany piece for it however many years down the line I review this game. So, Final Fantasy X. I'm just gonna tell you guys the whole story, and it'll kind of explain those titles that I was talking about. And I have like this Final Fantasy cutscene playlist playing while I talk, just to kind of help me reminisce. So, I turn on Final Fantasy X. Well, actually, I gotta back up. I used to tell you guys how I used to, go to a lot of thrift shops, go to a lot of pawn shops, yard sales. This is how I would collect my games, and this is how I would find games to play. And a lot of these games were complete trash. A lot of them were just dumb license games. Some I bought literally just for the sake of having, stuff like that. But in this game, I got this game for like $1 at a yard sale. And the first time I played it, I was kind of iffy about it. I was just kind of like, I had no idea what was going on. And at one point in my life, I thought I had to play all the other Final Fantasy games to play this one. Or to play, when I played 13, that's literally what I thought. I had to play all 12 previous games. And so this was kind of like when I was around the time I started to realize, okay, I don't have to do that. So I was like, okay, let's try this one. Final Fantasy X, because I didn't have internet. I couldn't just Google these things, guys. So, Final Fantasy X, which is a story about a guy named Titus, whatever you want to call him. He is a pro blitzball player. He is a star athlete in this kind of weird fantasy world town. And that town, kind of just gets obliterated. And he is suddenly in this whole different universe area, and he meets this gang group, and they're trying to destroy this giant entity that is plaguing the land, known as Sin. And there's so many other intricates, and there's so many things, that story doesn't give it justice. And I don't think you have to know the game for this story to be really cool. So, throughout this entire game, it's a long game. It's a JRPG, and it is normal JRPG length, which is, I know it took me over 60 hours to play this game. It took me probably upwards of 75 because I was taking my time. And I had to do a lot of grinding. The level up system, I kind of fucked up. And I was kind of all over the place when it came to that. So I messed up there, and I kind of had to grind a lot more than I should have, and I had to take a little bit more time. And there was a lot of boss fights, the Seymour guy. I fought him so many times. It was ridiculous. It was this never-ending cycle. But yeah, and I fell in love with all of these characters: Titus, Auron, Waka, Lulu, Yuna, Kamari. Literally, I haven't played this game in years, and I remembered all of those characters' names off the bat. I haven't looked up that much about this game since I beat it, but I remembered all of those characters just like that. which says a lot. So, and I really love Auron because he was also in Kingdom Hearts 2. That was kind of like one of my big reasons for playing this game. I wanted to expand my Final Fantasy reach and like get more context to Kingdom Hearts, etc. So I go through this game. It's a huge long process, hours and hours. Oh, and Riku, how could I forget Riku? Well, she comes in later, so Riku. I love these characters to death, by the way. I love this story. It's a very fun game. It's a really cool JRPG. Like, this is my Final Fantasy game. I haven't been able to play any other ones to completion, but like this one is kind of like the one, like, to be my example. Like when people like other people, like theirs is Final Fantasy 7, some people it's like Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 9. This one is mine. And just looking at some of these scenes, it's so beautiful. I'm looking at this giant orb in the middle of this sphere surrounded by like this was a PS2 game. This was the first like 3D Final Fantasy game. Like it was a big deal. And I know it's a very polarizing one. Like a lot of people hate this one, a lot of people love it. A lot of people couldn't get into it. Personally, like I kind of felt that sentiment. There was a lot of points in this game I didn't think I could keep going just because I got so frustrated and so stuck sometimes. And there's like these really long puzzle sequences that were complete bullshit. There's Auron just on top of this tower. I love Auron. There's this giant wave coming at them and he's just embracing it. So yeah. I get through this game. It's a super long process. It's really fucking hard, but I do it. I'm at the end of this game. And there's this portion where all the characters are in this flying hovercraft where you play a large portion towards the end of the game. In this hovercraft, all the characters are in like the pilot area, and the pilot is named Sid. And Sid, at one point, like, we're hyping up towards the end, like, you know it's the end of the game, like, cause like it's just that time. And there's this part where Sid leans in and goes, the bad guy, by the way, of the game is called Sin. You're trying to take out this giant monster who's destroying the entire planet. And at one point, Sid leans in and says, Sin! And literally the camera like zooms in into blackness. And then I was just on the edge of my seat and I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, okay. The screen it's still black. My screen is still black. Okay. And then I was like, let me restart my PS2 because it's still black. And I remember I didn't save, so I had to do a bunch of bullshit to get to that part. And then the same thing happened. The screen kept just going to black. My disc was fucked up. Literally the section in this game, like I didn't know if it was my system. I didn't know like if it was something in my memory, like if I did something, if it was a glitch. I didn't know what I did, but I couldn't get this game to work. I was at the end of Final Fantasy X and I couldn't finish it. I remember just dicking around the whole world just trying to stall. Like the game worked fine. It was just this one little section, this one cutscene where it faded to black and never returned. It was such an awful process. And so at that point on, I was kind of just like, I'm fucked. I didn't have internet back then. I couldn't just order another copy of Final Fantasy X. And I remember, like, I was trying to get the disc clean. I remember telling my mom, hey, can we go to that one place where they, like, will clean your disc or whatever? I said that to her, like, at least 20 times. I was like, hey, can we go here? Hey, can we go here? Hey, can we go here? Can we stop by here on the way to church, even though I don't like going to fucking church? Never happened. Not even once. I was so fucking upset. Oh, I was so upset. But I didn't even have to go to that place because I went to another yard sale. This is like months later, by the way. Like, this is months and months later. This is months of like feeling terrible because I never finished Final Fantasy X. And then months later, I went to another yard sale, and there it was. And once again, it only cost me like $1. And I was just kind of like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I put it in, and suddenly the screen fades to black, and the scene progresses. I had finally gotten past this scene. This is like the hardest thing, by the way. This was like my ultimate obstacle. This. And I finally was able to play this part, and I wasn't ready. I should have been grinding all that time, even more than I did. Because the final part of Final Fantasy X, like, it's like 5 boss battles back to back. And it's really hard. It's really hard. You're fighting really epic guys. Like, it's really hard, but I managed to win. I managed to get through it all. I managed to beat every single thing, and I finally beat Final Fantasy X. And this is there's a slight spoiler here, but I'm not gonna go into detail, so I'm not gonna like spoil the entire game for you. But people who played this game know what I'm talking about. In Final Fantasy X, the ending is super sad. Basically, two of the main characters die. And it's not even like, it's like characters it felt like you didn't get enough closure with, but like it kind of makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, it feels like it doesn't make sense and they're being ripped apart. It's just like, you achieved everything. It's like total happiness, and then the game's like, oh yeah, this character's dead. They gotta die. And then it's just like, oh my god, like, it hit you right in the feel. And we're looking at this gorgeous animation, and I should probably just watch this ending scene just to kind of refresh myself. Just gorgeous animation, gorgeous. And then like this romance that you've been working on is like, it's kind of up in the air. You don't know what's going on with it. Very like dramatic stuff. And then we get these scenes with Yuna, where she's just like, so many good memories. Like, I went on a journey with these characters. Like, I really felt like I traveled this kingdom and did all these things and accomplished this huge task, and I like was just so welled up with emotions, and I was just so upset about those characters, and like, I'm not sure at what point it happened, like, I cried. I've never cried from a video game before. I've never cried from a movie, not from a book. The only other thing that's ever made me cry was a wrestling match. Where the Undertaker at WrestleMania 33, when I saw it live, the Undertaker quote unquote retiring. But this video game was the one thing that made me cry. I'm just like watching these scenes with Yuna, her fucking beautiful eyes, the blue and green, and the way they clash. This was such a amazing thing. It's literally like, it was like the joy of like the scene in Star Wars, the celebration scene, just seeing all these characters just like revel in victory, and like, oh, just like we get these flashes of them in front of their face, and it just brings a huge smile to your face. There's Riku. It just welled me up with emotion, and I felt so like happy and sad. Like, a part of me was sad that it was finally over. It was at least 6 month long journey. Like, it felt like 6 months to a year to finish this game. And I finally did, and it was just welling. It welled me up with emotion and just pulled my heart and pulled my heartstring, and I bawled, like the tears just like, I don't like hold back my tears, like, but I don't just like let myself cry like that. Like there's a bunch of like dumb shit that's like sappy that I've almost cried to, but then it's like, am I really about to cry to this? Then it's like, nah. But this, there are some instances like, but that's the thing about like crying. Like, I think that's such a telling thing. Like, you were moved so much that your body itself, and you could say the same thing about laughing, but your body itself kind of like reacted. Like, your body released a liquid that only happens when you feel like your most passionate like self. And then there's this like really like kind of touching moments in the after credit scenes. Like, literally the screen lights up like this Final Fantasy X logo, and then we get this kind of like beautiful after credit scene that was kind of just like the cherry on top to that. Like, and I watched the entire credit scene. This is still when I believe like you should watch all the credits to games. And for some reason I just didn't believe that for movies, but for games I was like, I'm gonna sit here and watch the entire credits. And yeah, so we cut Final Fantasy X, the end. Good God, it was such a beautiful, like, this was on the PS2. Like, I can't even believe that. Such a huge game, big beautiful ending, one of the best video game endings of all time. This whole mantra, like, Square Enix really, like, I don't know how they do it, but they make you care about characters. And obviously there's just really long exposure because you're with them for like 100 hours, but god damn it, by the end of these games you care more than you do about most stories ever. I really should play more Final Fantasy games is what I'm trying to say. But anyway, that was the Final Fantasy story. It was like the hardest game that I've ever played, in the sense that I literally had to do a lot of work and a lot of real world bullshit to get through it. Not only that, but like, it was just such a challenge. Like, there were so many hard boss battles. There were so many frustrating nights. Like, I was just like, fucking A, like, I can't do it. And there were so many like blissful, happy moments. And then I finally did it. Like, just, it was a mixture of emotions. Like, it wasn't because I was happy or sad. It was like, it was all of the above. Like, I was happy that I finally fucking did it. That was like one of the big benefactors. Like, you might be thinking, oh, he cried because such and such died. No, I didn't give a fuck. Like, sure, I was really sad about that, but I also fucking did it. I beat this game, mixed with the sadness and mixed with the like bittersweet like feeling when you finish a game. And like, it was like the end to all these characters. And I know there's Final Fantasy X too, but I haven't even fully played that past like a couple hours. But maybe since I have the HD master now, maybe that will be on my bucket list. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode of Good Morning Soul. Oh my god, this was a big episode, and this was a hell of a story. Thank you for listening. I will see you tomorrow with another episode, and until then, with that, I leave you.